Okay, I'm in Maya and I've set up just a very basic scene. You can probably see there I've just a cube with a couple of sides knocked out, and I've just thrown a few objects inside it. So what we've basically got is something which resembles a room. So if we come up here and click on the render icon, that's basically what we've got. We've got a cone there wedged into the back and a cylinder and a ball. And you'll notice it's all fairly flat in the way it's lit. And that's because by default, there's no light in the scene, so Maya has just put a work light in there just so when we press render we can see something. So what we're going to do is look at lighting a scene as if we were in a real studio, in a photography studio. Okay, so to do that we come over here to the rendering tab. Click on that and you'll see at the left hand side there's a load of different types of lights that are available. So we don't necessarily need all of these. A sunlight is just a massive blast of light which lights a scene. So if I click on that, it puts that into the middle of the scene. Okay, so if I render that now, you can see it's that bright, it's dazzled the scene. If you compare it to the previous image where everything was quite flat, you can see there's definitely a change there. You can obviously move the light to anywhere you wanted. So if we moved it over here, just click on render again. You see the scene looks slightly different each time. Okay, so I'll just delete that. Okay, so let's just choose this one here now, which is a point light. And a point light is very much like just like a light bulb that you're carrying around. So if we get that and render that, see what we get. So you can see where it puts the shadow on the objects there, and it's just one little light bulb. So if I move it right over here, we should get some very different shadows. This time shadows are in different places. Okay, so we've got that. So we'll get rid of that one. So you can see you can just drop these lights in all over the place. A very useful one, I'm going to skip this one for a moment. This one here is a panel light. Now this is like a softbox in a photographer's studio. So if you've ever done any lighting in a studio, you'll see that they have these big softboxes, and we can use all the same tools over here that we normally use. So we can enlarge it up and we can rotate it. Okay, and then if we render that, we get a nice softer view of things, and if we move it further away it'll get even softer, but we may need to ramp it up a bit. And of course you can add more of these lights to your scene as you see fit. So if we've got them there, we could actually add let's add another panel light here. So let's rotate that around there and move it over to here and perhaps make it a bit bigger. We've now got two lights in the scene, so we can start killing the shadows on one side of the object. Now if we wanted to, we can we can make this less intense. So for this one that we've got selected on our attributes editor, we can come down here and we can turn that down a bit. So let's see what that looks like. So we should have a darker shadow on this side of things now. Yeah, so you've got more shadow on this side of it, and this one is just killing the light a little bit. We could perhaps do it a little bit more. Yeah, so you've got more shadow on there. So you can play around with these lights for lighting an entire scene. Now, one of the more interesting lights, so let me get rid of these. So I'll just delete these ones. Is the one I skipped, which is the spotlight. And a spotlight, on the move tool, is one that you can use just like you might think in a theatre somewhere, and it sends out a beam of light. So if we render that, you can see it's like a searchlight. It only lights up what it sees. Okay, and of course in all of these you can go into colour here and you can change the colour of the light. Let's make it green. Okay, so you can change, so it's a different colour. You can change the brightness of it here, and this pre-number angle here adjusts how soft the light is. So we render that. See how the edge has got a bit soft around the edge because I've taken it right down. If I put this back up somewhere closer to 0, In fact, let's just type 0 in. When I render that, you'll see we get a very sharp edge. It's there's no smoothness to it at all. So another useful thing we can do with this is we don't have to use colour. You'll see at the side here we've got a little checkerboard thing, which means we can choose an image to apply to our light. So for instance, if I click on that, and then I can come down here and choose File, and I've got some images that I've saved to my desktop. So you'll see over here now, I can choose the image name, and I've got it on my desktop, Gobos, and I've got a few different images. So let's choose this one of Venetian blinds, open that, render the scene now. You can see we've now got Venetian blinds shining through. So you can obviously work out that you can have a bit of a play around with the settings on that. You could increase the size of the light if you wanted to. Over here, remember, you can do all the stuff you can usually do with any other object. You can do with the light. So if you wanted to enlarge it up, let's see what we get now. This might be a bit too bright. But we can change that. We can move it, take it further away from our scene. You can see by playing around with these lights, we can get some really nice effects. So I can close that down. I can come over here and I can obviously do the number thing again. So do that. So we're getting a nice softer edge. Stuff's looking quite natural. So you can play around with all these things. And that, if it's upside down, which that one looks like it is, of course, all you've got to do is come over to your cone and spin it around 180 degrees. And there we go. So we can do all sorts of effects with this, and just really have a really good play around with using lights, and you'll find your scenes begin to look a lot more lively when you do these things. And I thought I'd just finish off with one more really useful tip, because you probably noticed as we render stuff here, we get shadows on the objects themselves, but the objects don't seem to cast any shadow. Okay, so we only get shadow on the objects. So if you want to do that, so to turn on the shadows, we come over here where we've had our light attributes options, and we'll just scroll down, and what we're looking for here is under the shadows tab. So shadows, depth map shadow attributes, and just tick that little box there, and you'll see that when we render it now, we're getting shadows of all the objects. So suddenly our scene is looking a lot more realistic, and you can imagine if this has been textured up, etc., it's going to look quite real. So that is an overview of using lights in Maya.